And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Saturday, February 10th, 2024. And in addition to this YouTube broadcast, you can get additional weather information from the National Weather Service. Our online presence is at weather.gov. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Alaska and Hawaii to the lower left. And what's nice about this, if you point and click anywhere on this map, it'll pull up the forecast for a specific location with any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories. Quick check of the map this Saturday afternoon. We have winter storm watches for Pennsylvania on up into southern New England. Some areas could pick up locally as much as 10 to 12 inches of snow. And then winter storm warnings with a different area of low pressure out over the Texas Panhandle, northeast New Mexico, surrounded by these areas in purple that include winter weather advisories. And then this little area of blue here, just west of West Yellowstone into far southern Montana, south of Dillings and that area, avalanche warnings. And we have avalanche warnings in effect now for areas of south central Alaska, especially the western Chugach and Kenai Mountains. And we'll talk a little more about that. Strong winds blowing through the Alaska Range continue into early Sunday morning as a result of frontal system that's working its way through there with some stronger surface and mid-level winds. Overall, the storm track is going to be changing up a bit here as we go through the rest of this weekend and through the middle of next week. We're expecting low pressures to lift out of the North Pacific and then move across the Alaska Peninsula and affect areas of the western mainland and west coast. This is a bit of a departure from what we've been seeing, where the bulk of the action has been especially around the Gulf. And this is going to pull generally milder temperatures across much of the state. Some areas will even experience some periods of drier weather than what we've had through mid-February. Other spots, though, because Alaska is such a large state, we'll see some enhanced precipitation, especially there across the Alaska Peninsula and the west side of the mainland as we go through early and middle part of this upcoming week. Quick check, way up in the northwest, Point Lay down through Point Hope are under winter weather advisories for blowing snow. Brisk northeasterly winds gusting up as high as 45 miles an hour are causing a lot of blowing snow. Temperature there 6 below zero. That's where some of the coldest air is. Way to the east into the interior, northeast I should say south of Fort Yukon Central, mostly sunny skies. Still some temperatures this morning were a bit below zero there, but nothing as cold as what it was like a couple of weekends ago. Moose Pass in the eastern Kenai Peninsula has some breaks in the cloud cover, but there are some scattered light snow mixed with rain showers affecting areas of the Kenai Peninsula. Temperature at 33. The biggest concern, though, the mountains surrounding Moose Pass on up toward Turnagain Pass and areas of the western Chugach and Kenai Mountains there have very high potential for avalanches to occur. And then finally, way in the southern part of the Panhandle to the southeast of Ketchikan, Twin Island, partly cloudy, 41 degrees. Almost looks like you could pretend and say maybe that was Hawaii, and instead of 41, it's 81 degrees, but not the case yet. Maybe as we get back into summer. But the Chugach National Forest Avalanche Center says that we have very dangerous avalanche conditions, western Chugach and Kenai Mountains, in and around Girdwood, Portage, Turnagain Pass, Moose Pass, and Seward. This past week we did have a fatality of a heli skier that was brought into the mountains there and it triggered an avalanche. Also a couple of other close calls. So again, warning people, avoid the backcountry travel and recreation, the snowmobiling, skiing in those areas. And especially if you're around any sort of slope that's greater than 30 degrees, that is a location that could result in an avalanche slide. So looking at what we have for the current watches, warnings, advisories, here's the avalanche warning. Again, for areas of south central. Up along the Alaska Range, we have high wind warnings and wind advisories. Winds could gust 50 to as high as 70 miles an hour. We're having old frontal boundary that's weakening but moving north. The wind field is pretty strong associated to that. Southeast to south winds could gust as high again as 50 to 70 miles an hour through early Sunday morning. And then up here, the White Mountains north of Fairbanks, the potential for blowing snow, reducing visibility and slowing travel, especially through Eagle and 12-mile summits. That's where the worst conditions would be. And then the winter weather advisory out here along the northwest Arctic coast from Point Lay down to Point Hope, 45-mile-an-hour wind gust, producing considerable blowing, drifting snow, especially shallow, like ground blizzard type stuff. And then this large area of blue over west central mainland is for the fact that we're going to see the storm track early midweek, just lows coming up out of the North Pacific, crossing the Alaska Peninsula, impacting areas of the southwest and west coast into the inner middle portion here of the western interior. It could be snow and mixes of precipitation because the air that's going to be pulled northward is going to be warmer than what it has been, especially when we go back just a few weeks ago. But looking at the satellite imagery, we continue to see just a flow of disturbances. Notice the popcorn look to the clouds here. These are scattered showers, could even be a rumble of thunder here over the open Gulf as we go through tonight into early Sunday morning. We have a scattering, we have the showers extend all the way back out along the Aleutian chain. And if we take a look at where the low pressures and things are this Saturday afternoon, here's the one primary low that came up like this here over the past day and a half. Now located over the lower Yukon Delta, will continue to pass northward to just offshore there of Nome, on up through the Bering Strait into the lower Chukchi Sea as we go through Sunday into Sunday night. Impulses continue to ride. We have these little waves of low pressure troughs. Here's the remnants of a front that came into the Gulf Coast, and here's another little disturbance. Here comes the next one. So by the time we get into late tonight, early on Sunday morning, here comes that next little area of low pressure, not as deep as the past couple, and high pressure trying to reestablish itself here over the interior of Western Canada. And then by Sunday afternoon, the one low is now lifted up there to the north side of the Seward Peninsula. We have the next low and little trough coming on through that could enhance some showers. And then here comes the next low, a little push of milder air. That's the one that's going to come up across the Alaska Peninsula on Monday. And this system will have with it some mixed precipitation as it does so, some stronger winds. And as it rides further north up here into the lower and middle Yukon Valley, we anticipate snow that may mix with and change over to some rain or even a little bit of freezing rain, not out of the question, but more likely just a light mix of precipitation with those systems. Looking at low temperatures Sunday morning, near the freezing mark in much of the Panhandle. Temperatures certainly upward from what they have been across South Central. No sub-zero readings in the Copper River Basin for the change. Lows near 30 in the Anchorage Bowl. And then temperatures Sunday afternoon. Now highs this Saturday have been up near 40 in Anchorage. Still, I would say 35 to maybe 38 for a high in the Anchorage Bowl. Temperatures lower 40s extending out here from Sitka down through Craig and Ketchikan. And as we look at lows, a little colder Monday morning, maybe close to zero up there at Gulkana or Glen Allen. Otherwise below freezing most areas with the exception of, say, like right along the southern and outer coast of the Panhandle, or like Middleton Island there at 36. And temperatures on Monday afternoon, though, are going to be back up around freezing in South Central or a bit above that, some 40-degree readings at Homer and certainly a bit above that at Kodiak, low mid-40s here for the southern part of the Panhandle, and even a little above freezing up there at Skagway. In the far north, we still have some sub-zero temperatures. Chicken, Northway, you're going to see below zero again for Sunday morning. 6 below Fort Yukon, areas of the North Slope along the Arctic coast. That's where the coldest air resides. Notice, though, as you go down through the Yukon River and the upper Kuskokwim toward McGrath, we're looking at temperatures to be at least 20s to near 30 degrees. If you have some downslope off the Alaska Range, you could locally have temperatures above freezing. And then even Monday morning, some areas of the east central interior along the Alcan border will be below zero, 16 below or so there at Northway, and below zero along the Arctic coast. Temperatures remain in the 20s to near 30 as you get further southwestward toward the lower Yukon. And then looking at the southwest interior, lows below freezing with the exception of maybe a few spots here along the Alaska Peninsula. Daytime highs above freezing in many areas along the Alaska Peninsula and in through the Aleutians. Up to the north, near freezing for a change. And for Monday morning, temperatures dip back down into the teens. So we're getting into kind of that thaw-freeze cycle. Not quite as pronounced as what it will become as we get into March, but it is at least showing up there. In some areas along, especially just the west side of the Alaska Range, or say King Salmon, which tends to run a little warmer, up into at least the lower 40s for high temperatures Monday afternoon, and even up close to freezing further west. Imanuk and those areas could certainly have temperatures close to freezing. Now, the extended temperature outlook past mid-month, February 16th through the 20th, is calling for temperatures to average above normal across much of the mainland, especially focused on the west and southwest down through the Alaska Peninsula, from Kotzebue down through Nome, Bethel, Dillingham, Sandpoint. These areas could see temperatures average above normal through that period and below normal here in the Panhandle. Now, this is, keep in mind, this is centered on February 17th. Prior to that, though, as I mentioned, as we go through this upcoming early and middle week, the storm track is going to bring more moisture across the Alaska Peninsula and on up through the west coast in these very areas that may see some mixed precipitation. Now, looking further out there from that period of February 16th through the 20th, centered on the 18th here, generally below normal precipitation or less than normal expected across much of the interior and the north, and even especially over the Panhandle, with near normal precipitation anticipated here along areas of the southwest coast and the Alaska Peninsula.